On this Friday night, a grizzly bear attacks a school field trip in BC. The young children critically injured.
I want to thank the teachers for their heroism.
How they bravely fought off the bear and the search for the animal. Big deals. The UAE promises to invest tens of billions in Canada, where the money is going and what South Africa might be offering. Ultimatum. What Ukraine stands to lose if it doesn't accept the US-backed peace plan by next week. Plus, CHAMP.
I can't quite believe that I pulled that off.
The Canadian mathematician who won an international Scrabble competition again.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. A remote community in northern BC is reeling tonight after a group of elementary school students on a field trip were attacked by a grizzly bear. It happened on a trail near a school that's run by the Nuxalk First Nation in the community of Bella Coola. At least 4 people were sent to hospital, 3 of them children, aged 9 and 10. 2 of those victims are now in critical condition.
We're holding the victims and their families with deep care and hoping that they find healing and comfort in the coming days. We understand that this is a very distressing time for the community.
That tight-knit community is now waiting for an update from the hospital as wildlife officials try to track down the bear. Erin Ubels explains what unfolded in our top story tonight.
The small BC coastal community of Bella Coola, devastated, heartbroken, and standing together after a grizzly attack that left nearly a dozen people injured, including children.
Our focus is on the wellness of our community, the wellness of our families that have been affected by this.
The frightening encounter happened during a school field trip Thursday afternoon as a group of grade 4 and 5 students and teachers stopped for a lunch break.
The group had stopped along a trail near the community when a grizzly bear emerged from the forest and attacked. Teachers successfully repelled the bear using pepper spray and a bear banger.
When he was running for his life, and there was there was some adult teachers there, and they stopped the attack.
The BC Conservation Officer Service says 3 children and 1 adult were seriously injured and airlifted to hospital. 7 others were treated on scene. BC's Premier commending the bravery shown.
I want to thank the teachers for their heroism, their early accounts of their willingness to confront this vicious animal. And I want to send my heart out to the parents and the kids and the loved ones of everyone who's been injured, who's in hospital right now, and I hope for their quick recovery.
These children are going to be around for many, many, many years because of the actions that they've done. And when you really think about that, just so proud of them.
It's believed the bear in this latest attack may have been injured previously. It has not yet been tracked down. Conservation officers will remain in the area as their investigation continues. Erin Ubels, Global News, Vancouver.
And turning to breaking news now, Canada Post and the union representing its 53,000 workers have reached a tentative contract agreement. No details have been released, but if ratified, it could finally bring an end to a 2-year labor dispute which led to 2 national strikes. Canada's Prime Minister has now arrived in South Africa for this weekend's G20 summit. It comes on the heels of Mark Carney's fruitful visit to the United Arab Emirates. Carney just revealed that the UAE has agreed to invest more than $70 billion in Canadian industry. Our chief political correspondent, David Aiken, is traveling with the Prime Minister and reports on his focus of expanding trade relationships.
Prime Minister Mark Carney arrives in Johannesburg, where he'll attend this weekend's G20 summit. Carney arrived after 2 days in the United Arab Emirates, where UAE sovereign wealth funds agreed to invest $70 billion in Canada in ports, critical minerals, energy, and AI projects. Carney's staff say that's the biggest single foreign direct investment ever.
From the UAE, there is tremendous interest in expanding the economic relationship with Canada.
Details to be announced, but on top of that, Carney's aides say Canada facilitated a further $23 billion of UAE investments in Canadian companies. Details also to come, but this has been Carney's mission in his overseas trips: get investors to put money into Canada. And now, South Africa is ready to deal.
In the fractured world in which we are living, all countries are in search of partnerships, strategic partnerships, as they address the two fundamental challenges of our time.
South Africa is looking for more markets for its platinum and for agricultural products like ostrich meat, avocados, and most of all, its world-famous wines.
We make fantastic wines, and we just want the Canadians to have an experience.
Meanwhile, South Africa is hungry for Canadian energy, especially natural gas.
We would be willing to consider a gas for wine deal.
But South Africa's winemakers have trouble selling to Canadian consumers, mostly because of provincial liquor store monopolies in Ontario, Quebec, and elsewhere.
I'm a bit concerned that our wines, which is a competitive advantage for us, our quality wines at really affordable prices, is not making it in bulk into the Canadian market.
Now, Carney's trade talks this weekend will be about more than just South African wine, but this gas for wine idea is a useful reminder that free trade is a two-way street, that if Canada wants access to some foreign markets, it may have to allow access to some domestic markets. Jeff.
David Aiken in Johannesburg, South Africa tonight. Thanks, David. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has convened his security cabinet to discuss the surging settler violence in the West Bank. The meeting comes after a string of 7 settler attacks were reported in the West Bank overnight. Homes and vehicles were torched and 2 Palestinians were hospitalized. In a separate military operation, Israeli forces shot and killed 2 Palestinian teenagers. The IDF claims troops faced an immediate threat. Israel is also ramping up its attacks in Gaza, which threatens to upend the fragile ceasefire. The U.S. president has given Kyiv until Thursday to accept an American-drafted peace plan for Ukraine. That plan appears to contain significant concessions from Ukraine and economic and military victories for Russia. Reggie Cecchini reports on the consequences for Kyiv if the Ukrainians refuse to sign on.
While the U.S. and Russia boast of a peace plan to end the war in Ukraine, the reality on the ground tells a very different story, as waves of overnight airstrikes injured civilians, including children, in Odessa, and killed at least 5 people in Zaporizhia. There are shops on the main road where this happened, this woman says. The victims were inside. Grieving has become a way of life in Ukraine, and memorials a national symbol of unity. But with Russians advancing and claiming to hold more territory, concerns are increasing about a U.S.-brokered peace plan that appears to be lopsided.
The principle that Ukraine must determine its future under its sovereignty is a fundamental principle.
The vision is a made-in-America concept presented to both Russia and Ukraine without buy-in from either. It includes significant concessions that are in line with Russia's demands, including more land than they currently hold.
These are absolutely unacceptable conditions as they currently stand.
Vladimir Putin says if the Ukrainian and European warmongers refuse to discuss the plan, his troops will move in and capture more. Ukraine's officials have voiced concern about their lack of input on a deal that rolls back sanctions and may allow Moscow back into the G8 while providing amnesty for Russian officials and soldiers.
We will not reward the genocidal intent that underpins Russian aggression.
For Ukraine's president, this plan, which offers a security guarantee, comes with a cost. Losing our dignity or losing a key partner, he said. And U.S. support could be on the line if the deal isn't signed by next Thursday.
This perceived window of opportunity of political vulnerability is sort of being exploited in an attempt to put pressure on Kyiv.
In his quest for peace, Zelensky promised his people he won't betray Ukraine. Reggie Cecchini, Global News, Washington.
Ukraine is topping the agenda at the annual Halifax Security Forum. Defense officials, diplomats, and industry leaders from around the world are gathered to discuss issues of international security. Protecting democracy is the focus, but this year's event is happening without the participation of a major global security player. Heidi Petracek explains.
I miss my motherland so much.
You might wonder what brings a 15-year-old to a gathering of the who's who of international security and defense in Halifax. But for Ukrainian teen Diana Gerasimenko, who now lives in Poland because of the war, it's not politics, it's personal.
We need to reach the unanimous agreement on some democratic values.
The past year has seen the idea of those shared democratic values disrupted when it comes to the United States, the tumultuous Donald Trump presidency altering relationships. This year's Halifax International Security Forum happening minus participation from the White House or the U.S. Department of Defense.
And this is an opportunity that I'm afraid I think they've missed.
Which means Defense Minister David McGuinty kept the focus on the role Canada can play.
We're working and partnering where we can with any ally with whom we want to work.
New Ipsos polling for the forum of more than 23,000 people across 30 countries suggests roughly 80% believe Canada will have an overall positive influence on world affairs, compared to America's reputation, which dropped 13 points year over year to a new low of 46%. While the U.S. ambassador to Canada has suggested Ottawa's review of a deal to purchase 88 American-made F-35 fighter jets could affect trade talks, McGuinty insists there's still collaboration between the two nations.
Whether it's my conversations with officials at NORAD or in the Pentagon with Secretary Hegseth, we work hand in glove.
When it comes to Ukraine, McGuinty wouldn't say much about the U.S. brokered peace deal with Russia.
We're not parties to that negotiation. But we remain hopeful, eternally hopeful, that we can bring this to an end.
Nothing is forever. I'm optimistic about that.
While Gerasimenko knows an end to the war won't happen here, seeing a commitment to democracy, she says, does offer hope. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
An air show in Dubai took a tragic turn. A pilot from India was killed after his fighter jet crashed. And a warning, this video is disturbing. The plane appeared to lose control before plummeting to the ground and exploding into a fireball in front of thousands of spectators. The combat plane was a Tejas, made and designed in India. The cause of the crash is now under investigation. Punishable by death. Coming up, what President Trump suggested should happen to some political opponents that has them fearing for their safety. The U.S. president is defending himself after furious backlash to his online posts accusing 6 Democrats of sedition punishable by death. Donald Trump says he was not threatening the lawmakers, but still insists they're in serious trouble. Jackson Prosko reports on the reaction and fears those comments could fuel political violence.
Was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
This is the video that caused President Donald Trump to make accusations of treason as 6 Democratic members of Congress delivered a direct message to American troops.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
The lawmakers didn't say which orders they're referring to. There has been concern about Trump's strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and the deployment of troops to U.S. cities. Nevertheless, Trump on social media accused the Democrats of seditious behavior punishable by death, doubling down Friday.
I'm not threatening death, but I think they're in serious trouble. In the old days, it was death. These are people that, in my opinion, broke the law. Now, what happens to them, I can't tell you, but they broke the law.
Every Democratic member of the Senate and the House, their life is in jeopardy right now.
Democrats reacted to the president's words with horror and fear for their own safety.
If you are a person of influence in this country, maybe it's time to pick a side.
Several say they've since received hundreds of threats and have had to increase their own personal security.
I'm not going to shut up because Donald Trump is threatening me.
Does the president want to execute members of Congress? No.
The White House argues the president has not issued any order that could be considered illegal and in turn blamed Democrats for using inflammatory rhetoric.
They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
The fear is that heated words will only add to the climate of political violence in the U.S. The Democrats who raised concerns about the president issuing unlawful orders say they're not backing down. Jackson Prosko, Global News, Washington.
The U.S. president met with New York's mayor-elect, self-described socialist Zoran Mamdani today, and the meeting was surprisingly cordial.
One thing in common, we want this city of ours that we love to do very well, and I wanted to congratulate the mayor.
We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president.
Pretty friendly, considering in the past, Mamdani had called himself Donald Trump's worst nightmare, and Trump had called Mamdani a 100% communist lunatic. Still ahead, pipeline politics, the war of words between provincial leaders over a controversial project. A showdown is brewing in Brazil in the final hours of the UN Climate Summit over a draft of this year's climate agreement was released with no mention of fossil fuels.
It fails the Amazon, it fails science, it fails justice, and it fails the people we are here to represent. It simply cannot be legitimized.
More than 30 countries have now sent a letter to the summit's Brazilian hosts refusing to accept the lack of a roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. A promise to that effect was part of the earlier drafts. The summit was set to end tonight, but this impasse likely means it will run into the weekend. Well, back here in Canada, provincial politicians are having their own spat over fossil fuels. BC Premier David Eby is slamming the leaders of Alberta and Saskatchewan over rumored talks with the federal government about plans to build a new pipeline to the BC coast. Those discussions have not been confirmed, but as Jillian Piper reports, Eby is furious that BC is being left out of the loop.
Very good relationship with Premier Eby.
Ottawa is insisting it is on good terms with British Columbia.
Our intention is to make sure that all the voices are listened to.
Even though BC Premier David Eby is accusing the federal government and Alberta of excluding him from discussions around building a new pipeline to BC's north coast.
I've reached out to Ottawa to express that business in British Columbia should be discussed with British Columbia at the table.
Eby says he is open to increasing the capacity of the existing Trans Mountain pipeline if needed, but that calls to lift the tanker ban along his province's coast are not welcome.
When we have other provinces, specifically Saskatchewan and Alberta, coming in trying to tell British Columbia how to run our province, and most specifically to attack an oil tanker ban when there isn't even a project to justify removing the oil tanker ban.
Ottawa has said provincial and First Nation support are necessary for a new pipeline, which seem unlikely at this point.
The project is a non-starter to begin with. One spill would be catastrophic to our entire culture and way of life.
They support Canada and want to work together.
But Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says a new pipeline is necessary to get Canadian oil to new markets like Asia.
This is what Team Canada looks like, that when you've got provinces that don't have access to a shoreline, we cooperate to make sure that we can get our products to market.
Smith seems optimistic Prime Minister Mark Carney may be on board.
We are finding some receptivity on the part of the new Prime Minister, and I would say if we're going to get a deal, it will be in a matter of weeks.
Even if a political consensus is reached, there is still no private proponent for a new pipeline, Jeff. Alberta put $14 million in taxpayer money into securing approval, but private companies may be wary to invest, remembering the billions lost on previous projects like the Northern Gateway, Energy East, and Keystone XL pipelines.
Jillian Piper in Ottawa. Thanks, Jillian. Scrabble champion. Up next, we'll speak with the Canadian who's tops in the world of words.
I cannot explain to you how amazing this book is.
7,050,000.
Bidders at auction competed for a copy of the very first Superman comic, and the winning bid was nearly $13 million Canadian, making it the most expensive comic ever sold. About 1 million copies were printed back in 1939, but this is thought to be the best preserved. It was purchased at the time for just 10 cents. Three brothers in California found the comic as they were cleaning out their late mother's attic. Turning now to a Canadian who's known for his Scrabble superpowers. Adam Logan, an Ottawa-based mathematician, has won his second Scrabble World Championship. Our Eric Sorensen spells out what makes Logan so effective.
That's why Adam, looking gravely concerned.
That's Canadian Adam Logan on the left, trailing by more than 100 points. But minutes later, he turned it all around.
And now he's going to triple for 149. Oh my goodness.
Logan would win that game and go on to win the world title 4-2.
We'll see the handshake. There we go.
Defeating the legend, 5-time world champion Nigel Richards.
Westpac 2025 champion,
Every now and then I think to myself, I can't quite believe that I pulled that off.
A mathematician now, Logan was good at math and language as a kid, a great combination for Scrabble. He won his first world title in 2005, and it took 20 years of playing under pressure to get back to the top.
It's always a big challenge to go from knowing the word and being able to find it in the comfort of your own home to actually being able to recognize it and play it during a game.
Will Anderson, a former North American champion, says Logan is special.
Just raw calculation ability that very few players can ever reach. This really, to me, cements him as one of the great players in our game into that legendary status.
The game has changed because the English language has evolved since I played as a kid on this very board. Take hashtag, selfie, emoji, twerk. Try and get that one past your mom in the 1970s. And how about vax? None of these words were around back then. Hundreds of new words are added every few years. There are now 280,000 on the International Scrabble word list.
The evolution of language keeps the game fresh, and it could be at any moment that a word becomes common parlance that would have a huge impact in the game of Scrabble.
Logan says one of the joys of the game is keeping up with the changes.
That's definitely something that's interesting to see the new words come into the language. There was no such thing as COVID until a few years ago, but now it's a valid word for Scrabble just like everything else.
Adam Logan says he'll be learning more words in the future because he plans to defend his title at the next World Championship in 2 years. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Your Canada is going global this week. We're showing you pictures of Canadian pride we've received from all over the world. Tonight we're showcasing Montego Bay in Jamaica, the town of Denmark, Maine, and Arillis, Greece. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride from wherever you are to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.